I can't be the only one who hears you. Tears falling down at the party. Saddest little baby in the room.
All right, we're back. Do you have to take a break or do you need to do anything? Grab some water or anything?
I just drank some. I'm good. Thank you so much.
Okay, so past life regression. So this one's gonna be a long one, I feel like, because you have a lot to talk about. So I was doing some digging on your page, and I only watched the first when you like said it because I didn't want to know any information. Like I just wanted us to talk about it. But I did find out that you believe that your son was on the Titanic in a past life. And I would love to hear more about that because I am obviously, as you know, pretty huge into past lives this lifetime. And I too, even with you, have had very interesting things that kind of showed me that I obviously was, or I did have this past life that I had never, I don't think I've had the knowledge before. So I would love to know about that. How did you find that out? And like, what was that like?
Oh my gosh. Yes, this is such a cool story. Okay, so it started around 3. My son was 3 and he had some invisible friends and they were named Jamie and Boy Boy. Very like turn of the century, old school kind of names, right? And he would talk about them all the time. They were with him in the room. They were with him at bedtime. They would take a boat to a lighthouse. Like there was a lot of like boat and lighthouse stuff going on. And I always encouraged it. I've always just been interested. I would ask him questions, never pushing, but I was just always curious and letting him share whatever he wanted to share. Well, my family actually has a little bit of a connection to the Titanic. So my uncle used to work for a Titanic survivor on his sailboat.
Uh,
Yeah. So my uncle has always been interested in the Titanic because he knew someone who was on the Titanic. So my uncle bought my son like a book about the Titanic. And at 3 years old, he of course couldn't read. But one day we were reading this book about the Titanic, and my son pointed to one of the 4 smokestacks, and he said, "That one's not real. That one is fake." And I was like, "Oh, interesting." And so I Googled it, and sure enough, one of them is fake. One of them was like just for show. And I was like, how would he know this? How would a 3-year-old know
especially
this?
at that age.
Yeah.
That is wild.
So then my son started getting really obsessed with the Titanic, like wanted to read about it, wanted to learn about it. We took a family trip out to Las Vegas later that year. He was still about 3 years old. And at the time, I don't know if it still does, but the Luxor had the Titanic exhibit, like the museum. So we were like, we will take him there. And he was loving it and into it. We get to this room, and the sole purpose of this room was to honor the victims, the those who didn't survive. And so there were just the whole room was just plaques of like people's names. There was no information, there was nothing else. It was just this room to honor them. And my son was inconsolable. He had been happy throughout the entire museum, and in that room he broke down, was sobbing. We had to pick him up, we had to move him on, like, let's just keep going. So I just knew he was picking up on something, all of these things. Just kind of asking him about Jamie and Boy Boy, his his imaginary friends later, I just fully believe that he worked in some sort of I believe he was like a worker on the Titanic. Just his working knowledge of the fact that the smokestack was fake. I don't think he was a passenger. I think he may have worked in the coal rooms, that sort of thing. I'm convinced of that. And it's funny, he's almost 13. He doesn't remember any of this now. It's like I bring it up to him now and he's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
He thinks it's goofy. And I think that we grow out of those memories. We get further and further away from them. But I tell him the story all the time. Like, you were on the Titanic. You can't convince me otherwise. Teenage years.
When he's older,
Yeah.
he will look into that more and probably maybe it'll start coming back a little bit.
I hope so.
I have heard stories of children. I think it's easier, like you said, for children to remember because we're so fresh out the womb, And that's it with anything, even like seeing ghosts and things like that. Usually kids are much more sensitive to it just because there's not the, like as we age, we get jaded and we get just like these filters of like not really wanting to believe whatever, you know, it's just like, no, that's not possible.
Yeah.
But as kids, you don't have that. You're just, everything is fact. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. It's so authentic. And I have heard multiple stories of children just having similar things where it's like stuff that they wouldn't have known. Like there was this one kid that I heard about that he was young as well. And he always talked about this woman and that was like burned in a fire basically. And like would always talk about her and like how he knew her and things like that. It was just so weird. Like the details that he had, kind of like the smokestack where it's just like, you're so young. Why do you know this information? And his mother actually like found the articles of like that actually she thinks that it was him, you know, and like that she did find that there was a woman that was burned in her building. Like they were, and it's just like stuff like that. Or there's this one kid that kept telling his family that he needed to go to his house and it was like on this island, like that no one would, it's not like they're seeing that on TV. And then they had a dog and then they had, you know, like all these people and like the family and all these things. And so finally it was kind of like you, where they were just like, they weren't going to, you know, shoo it away. They were like, okay, let's see. You know what I mean? Like, let's validate him for a while and see what happens. So they went to this island and there was a house exactly how I described. And they did talk to the people and they said, yes, people that used to live here a long time ago had a dog. They had, you know, children. It was like, it all lined up, stuff that he wouldn't have known, but he was so sure. I had a similar thing after our situation. And I don't even know how much we've talked about it after that, but I have similar things where I've learned about 2 this lifetime. I'm sure there are more, or maybe 3 if you're technically counting. But I think it's the first time I've gotten that information as well. The first one I struggled to not accept, but like I struggled to love because of the kind of person that I was, because I wasn't a good person, which is hard to, you know, marry with yourself. And you're like, I would never do stuff like that. That's crazy. But the second one with you was like the witchy thing, the witchy life with like the witch trials. And I have similar both things. So like one of them was, the first one that I found out about was that I had an Egyptian past life, which made total sense to me because as a very young, all throughout when I was growing up, I was obsessed. Like when I say obsessed, it's not like, oh, I think it's cool. Like I think, you know, it was further than that, probably like your son with the Titanic, where it just felt like such a draw to it. I wanted to be an archaeologist and I would pretend to like, you know, find things in like the dirt. And so someone told me that I was dating. They were telling me, they did this whole art thing that like projected how I was and like how I am in like with love. And they were like, this is why you can't find love, because your blockage is here, here, and here. And like, it's because of your past lives, because all these things, it's basically like you're berating yourselves from like your past life. And they were like, you weren't a good person. You were a man, which makes sense to me. But they were like, also like, you were a pretty terrible person. Like they were like, you were like raping, murdering, theft, basically anything bad. And so like, it sounds cool. So for a long time, I didn't tell people about that at all, because it sounds very cool to be like, oh yeah, I have an Egyptian past life. You know what I mean? But like, it sounds less cool to be like, I was a terrible person. Like, you know, like no one wants to say that or claim that. So I just kind of didn't. I was just like, just didn't acknowledge it. And then when we had our past life regression thing, it was so impactful because I think that's why I couldn't go through the door in the forest. You know, I was telling you I couldn't go through, like if something was holding me back. And I was so frustrated with it, but I could tell on the other side of the door, it was sand. So in my head, I was like, Egypt, sand, like it's making sense, the desert, but I just didn't know why I couldn't go through. And then you had seen the 2 angels drawing the golden eye of Horus in the corner. And I do think that was for me. That's why I was like, that makes sense for me. But I didn't know why I couldn't go through until the end of that day. And even further, when I think it's like, because I already knew about that past life. I would love to delve more into it, but I already knew of it. And like that day was about giving me information of one of my other ones that I really needed right now for like the type of woman that I am and like things that I'm fighting and like how I am as a human, you know? And I really needed that Lilith breath work and to tap into that specifically. Anything witchy, I've always been witchy, you know what I mean? And I think it kind of spilled over, you know? And I did get shown things there, and America saw it too. She said like she saw the witches burning, and like all of it made sense that day. But even before that, I would be similar to your son, where if I watched anything, I loved anything witchy. But as soon, I'm telling you, like as soon as like even so, like me and my friends went to see Wicked, you know, the movie. Like the very beginning of the film is them in the town, and they're like, "Burn the witch, burn the witch." When I tell you, I was uncontrollably sobbing. I mean, like it's not even nothing's happened yet. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't that serious. Like nothing was like emotional. Nothing was. It was more just like showing what's happening. And when I was like so beyond, I was just like sobbing. And I realized that that's happened a couple times when specifically that's happening. And I didn't really understand why until we had that day. And I was like, well, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, and it's triggering for me. So a similar thing where I couldn't explain it in this life, where like things would happen. And like, same thing with like, I want to go to Salem, you know, really bad. I want to go to Edinburgh, but like, I want to go because I feel like I need to go. But also like, I think it's going to be a lot for me. So like, I don't, because it's just like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know if emotionally I can handle it, you know?
Yeah.
But after that day, I really understood that. And so like I understand like your son, it makes sense to me because I've experienced that as well. Where like you really can't explain it in this life. It has to be from somewhere else. There's no other explanation, you know?
Absolutely. And I want to like touch on that Egyptian lifetime that you mentioned too, where there was like this feeling of like not wanting to share. I fully believe that we all as like a soul have to experience certain different lifetimes. Like we have to be the villain in a certain story. We have to be a victim in a certain story. I believe we all have to be famous during some sort of lifetime because there are lessons that a soul can learn from being famous, being in the mind's eye. So like when people are like, "Oh, I think I was Cleopatra in a past life or I was Princess Diana in a past life." Maybe you were because I think we all had to be famous. Like it's not always just like an ego thing. Like we were someone famous at some point, just like we all had to be someone who didn't have anything, who struggled,
Yeah.
you know? So our souls have to experience all these different types of things. And so we've all had those lives where we were the rapist, the killer, the murderer, all of it, because we have to. So I totally get like not wanting to share it, but I also want to put this out there on the podcast for anyone who does do a regression. Like we all have to have lives like that. I've seen past lives of mine where I was not a good person too, and that's just part of it, right? So
Yeah. I more recently when I pulled the weight card, that was when I had reached out actually to the two angels that you had suggested with drawing that because I was reading one of my sister's books and I hadn't done any meditation in a really long time, and I really felt like I needed some guidance. So I was like, I need some help. I need some assistance. And so I was looking through my sister's books and I found like basically like, you know, meditating to open portals to conversations with, you know, your angelic beings or your protectors or whoever. And I thought about those two and I was like, maybe, maybe it's those two. So I did. And it was very clear. A lot of the times it's hard for me to tap in or drop in when I don't really need it. Or if I'm just trying to do something, when I really need it, it prevails itself to me. And during that whole thing, it was like my sister's book, I tapped in. It took me a really long time. I put the candles back that I was using. And when I did that, there was a card that said, "This will change." It's like just something that I got from a group thing that I did. It was like a little, more of like an affirmation card. And I have it like propped up. And what was holding it up was my sister's deck, one of my sister's oracles deck. So in my head, I was like, oh, she probably wants me to pull cards. It was all just like cheap tech, you know, like connecting the dots. So I did pull the cards, and it was Starseed, Weight, and what was the last one? I have it written down somewhere.
Yeah.
But when I started delving more into that, I don't know if you believe in star seeds or if you think that that's a thing. I know it's like when I researched it more because I didn't really know anything about it, I thought it was it's kind of like showy trend, you know, like it's like people, you know, it's like kind of catchy right now, which I also usually tend to shy away from. But when I was reading it about it, I was kind of like, yeah, 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 you know what I mean? Where it's like it's not special per se. There's like a lot of them, and it's like the concept that it's, you know, your soul has been a different type of soul before, like an alien kind of soul before, which makes sense if you believe in reincarnation, that you wouldn't reincarnate as human every time. There are some people that are just strictly human souls, or they haven't gotten there yet to be the other kind or something. It said a lot that made sense to me within, for example, like the past life thing. It kind of, when I researched it, it was like starseeds have to have the full understanding of humanity to be what they're, to like come back as a starseed. You need to know like the good, the bad, the ugly, kind of like you were saying, to like understand the full scope of humanity, or else you can't help, right? Because you can't understand if you haven't seen the darkest parts. And that was the first time that I was like, oh, maybe that's why. And it made me feel so much better about like, it was like, oh, that makes sense. Like you were saying, you have to understand. If you only understand the good parts, you're not understanding humanity, right?
Oh.
And just even like the waiting and like how like basically you're here to help humanity as a whole, and like even like things with my relationships, like me struggling sometimes in like romantic relationships, and like I've had to, that's a whole other episode, but me understanding like in that moment that that's maybe not my path, which is nothing that you're human, because it said that, you know, starseeds, you're still having your humanity, your human side, you're still living your human experience, you're still human, you know what I mean? But like just because you have this higher calling and you have this purpose doesn't mean you're not having human experiences and having those struggles. And but like understanding that maybe that's not my path, and that's why I struggle so much with it, and then like that's still hard for your humanity side, where you're like, but I want those things, you know? It makes it a lot more difficult, but it also is extremely validating, because it said in there that like you might be called to go places that you've never, that like it feels more like, oh yeah, you want to travel, but like it feels more like you have to go there, you know? And it's like basically because you were supposed to be at certain places at certain times to like unlock certain things, you know? And that's why it feels like so much more than just like, oh, I wish I could go to Aruba, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've experienced that. Like even when I was a kid growing up, my grandmother said I think she was too religious to understand her witchiness, but I think she was very witchy. But she used to say that she used to weep for me because I didn't have a home. She said that I was always looking for somewhere else, that I was always going somewhere else, that I wanted to be somewhere else. And I was just always like nomadic. Like I just wanted to be other places. And I still feel that today, where like I would rather be traveling anywhere. And there are certain places that I want to go, and it's certain places that I've been. I knew that I needed to go to Thailand and Cambodia, and I knew that I needed to go. And it didn't really make sense. Like I just picked it out, you know, like it was random, but I felt like I needed to be there. And so I made it happen, and it was life-changing for me. And there's a lot of places that I feel the need to go. Like I was saying, you might feel like you just are never settled. You might feel a little isolated. You might feel like, and like all these things, I was like, tick, tick, tick. Yes. And also that like when you're like quote unquote like activated, it's because it's like your time to fight whatever you need to fight, or enlighten whatever you need to enlighten, and help people. And it's crazy because this year I have been just like, it's almost like it was like a fucking light bulb, where it's just like, I've never been like that before, but all of a sudden it was like, I couldn't not. And so I've been really active with like trying to spread information and help people, and like help humanity, and like be, you know, try to get people to have empathy. And it's wild, but like all of these things, I'm like, this makes so much sense to me. And it might sound like so woo woo. And even me as a witchy person, when things get too woo, I'm like, I'm out. Like I can't, you know, it's just too ick. But like it was making sense. It was making a lot of sense, even for like how I am and how I've been as a kid. And like the past life things, like how I needed to understand like the full scope of everything. So yeah, that's been interesting. I'm very interested in past lives.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. I love that you haven't had that information before, but now you do.
Yeah, and I can see that. I feel like I'm changing as a soul or as a being because of it.
Mhm.
Have you ever discovered a past life on your own? I know you have, but I would love to hear about it or them. And how did it explain anything about who you are today? Like, how did it tick those boxes for you?
Yeah, this is a great question. I know quite a few of them. So part of my when I got trained in regression work, part of it was getting regressed. You know, it's part of the whole process of like you can't take someone into something if you haven't experienced it yourself. So most of my regression training was being regressed. But even before that, um like my early 30s when I kind of discovered this gift, part of me didn't understand why I didn't know it sooner or how to use my abilities. Like I just didn't fully understand. I felt like I was blocked. And I decided that getting a past life regression would help me understand that, like understanding my gifts and how I'm supposed to use them and why I didn't see them sooner in life. I felt like 30s was really late. I don't feel that way anymore, but I did feel like that at the time. And so I Googled a past life regression therapist, found one local to me, and I reached out to her and I told her, I want to do a regression to kind of understand my gifts and where the blockages are. And she was like, "Oh, I don't do that kind of regression work." And I just felt so strongly that it was supposed to be her. Like when I saw her face, I was like, "I know that it's supposed to be you." And she was like, "Okay." So we did my regression, and whenever you decide to do a regression, I believe that the moment you decide to do it, your soul gets really excited. And the soul doesn't really care about time, like to our human selves. And so, all like maybe a week or two before the regression, when we had it scheduled, I was having bleed through in my dreams of that lifetime. So, I was like having dreams and like seeing scenes from this lifetime coming through. So I say that because if you do decide to do a regression, notice your dreams, notice some of these things because the soul just wants you to start seeing it. And when I actually went to the regression was when we kind of put them together and saw them like in a progressive order. But that first lifetime that I ever saw was in the ancient Middle East in Israel. I was what you would call like a monk in that lifetime, I guess, but within the Jewish religion. So I was a man and I chose to commit my life to my religion and to be celibate and to not get married and to essentially pour myself into Judaism. And somewhere along the way in that lifetime, I got disillusioned with it. And I decided that I didn't align with the religion anymore, but I didn't feel like I could live. So I chose to commit suicide. And I was going out into the desert to just perish, not drink water, not eat, just allow the desert to take me. And it was very biblical. Like I saw these angels that pointed me to turn around. And so in this lifetime, I turned around and I saw Jesus preaching in the desert to people. And somehow when you do a regression, you understand like the customs of the time. So like I knew that something was unusual about the way he was preaching. The children were in the front, the women were behind the children, and the men were in the back, which I knew that that was weird. Like men would have been in the front to be able to hear better. And so I turned around and I walked over to the group. And as a man in that lifetime, I stood in the back with other men. And Jesus like spoke to me and I had like an interaction with him and I became a follower of Jesus. I have shared this story with people before and they've immediately said, "Oh, you were Paul or you were Peter or you were an apostle." I have no idea. I don't know. I just know that I was a follower of Jesus and the next scene that I saw in that lifetime was the crucifixion. I saw him on the cross and then it jumped to my own death where I was being stoned and killed for being associated with Jesus, and that was it. And it just so happened that the regression therapist who took me through that regression was raised by a pastor. Her family was extremely religious, and so she needed to kind of witness and experience this story. And so I think that how that connects to now, um, I am not religious. I was raised in the Christian faith, but I have fully like expanded to obviously so much more than just that. But I think I needed to see that it is okay to believe in the core teachings of Jesus and also not follow the religion
Yeah.
that he
Yeah.
wouldn't have even have wanted, honestly. He
Yeah.
wouldn't want any of this. So anyway, it was I think I am meant in this lifetime to help people understand that you can believe in this and that it doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah.
That was the first lifetime I saw. It was pretty
I mean, that's
intense.
pretty massive.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's incredible. And I do think about that sometimes. It's like I struggle with that as well. I also was raised in the Christian faith and I obviously got away from that. But now that I'm older, like I understand, like, for example, like Jesus was not like an anarchist, but he really was trying
He's
to
a
teach
rebel. He was a
empathy. He
rebel.
was trying to teach people kindness and acceptance and not hatred. So, if anyone in the Bible was the real OG, it was him, and not so, not killing people because they don't, agree with him or whatever, like everyone else, which is super obviously impactful for today. And I've also struggled with it, like trying to like marry those two because of so much harm that's been done from religion in general throughout centuries. But I do see the importance of certain teachings, and like even today, it's like, oh wow, like yeah, that's really prevalent for like what's happening. And I think I think it's an important lesson to share with people. And that is interesting how you can marry the two because I think sometimes you can't. Like people don't like there. When I was growing up in the religion, it was like very not okay to be any sort of Wicca, witchy, nothing. It was
No.
all
Yeah.
demonic. It was all Satan, like. And I tend to think I've shared this a lot with my friend Jacob. We talk a lot about this stuff, but I think it's all the same thing. I think it's all people are just calling it different things.
I agree.
But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's just what you call it, and also what you do with it. I think is the most important thing. Is like not harming people because of it. It's just something that's been lost on people. But yeah, Jesus was definitely teaching the opposite of that. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's a win. What anything else? Like any other ones that really like stand out to you?
Yeah, so I also had a past life. So I've always loved, just like you were talking about Egypt, and how you loved it as a child. I really, really loved, like ancient Greece and gods and goddesses.
Yeah.
And I really firmly believe that the goddess Athena is one of my guides in this lifetime. I have felt her so strongly, so many different symbols over the years. And I did a past life regression where I went back to ancient Greece and I was working with like an oracle and I was kind of an apprentice of an oracle, that sort of
Makes
thing.
sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, there's been other like random past lives too, like some that have explained like my children and my connections to them in ancient Asia.
Mhm.
So just some interesting different spots. Also, a past life in Scotland as a man too. So have seen different ones as like, different genders, different experiences, that sort of thing. So
How many do you know of for yourself?
I know for sure of 5
Wow.
that I have
Holy
visited.
cow.
But
That's a
like I
lot.
said, I've done a lot of that work because that was part of the training, So I think I've done more regression maybe than the average person. Um, but I also believe that there's so many different ways to access your past lives. I just want to mention this too, that you don't have to do regression work. It's like you were saying earlier, you feel really called to a certain place in the world. I believe you've had a past life there. Or on the flip side, if you feel like really like, I don't want to go to that area of the world, you could have had a really difficult lifetime there. I also believe you can see it in your astrology chart. If you look at your South Node rules your past lives. Also, your Chiron, you can find so much about past lives through your Chiron. So there's just like so many different ways that you can tap into past lives. I even think you can pull cards about past lives. Just ask, who you were and like look at the images on the card and let it tell you a story, that sort of thing. So there's so
Yeah.
many ways you can do it.
That's really refreshing. I think sometimes it gets overwhelming or it gets like, what's the word? Like intimidating for people to do that. I would love for my friend Jacob, the one I've been mentioning, I believe he's also like the poet and the writer. And very, not that long ago, something happened where I like have this feeling like he could have been Edgar Allan Poe in a past life. And things are starting, like, I had brought it up to him and I was like, how do you feel about that? And he was like, I don't know. Like, it makes sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we just started like comparing things. Like, for example, like he's had this really weird obsession with like ravens, with crows, like with blackbirds in general. Like, he really loves them. And then also like we were comparing his writing, and like sometimes his writing changes. You know how I was telling you, it doesn't always seem to come from him. I was comparing his writing, and on some points, it looks like Edgar Allan's Poe. I pulled like a sample from online, and it looks very similar to the way he used to write. And it was just like he was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we were kind of thinking, we were like, we think we probably knew each other in a past life, and so I was trying to figure out where we might have. And we think our relationship, it is possible. Like, I just have, it's just a feeling. It's not anything more concrete than that, but it's possible just the way that we are with each other, that I was the important woman in his life in that lifetime. Like, I feel like maybe, but I don't know, because I don't know if I've had that, and I'm not sure, but that's just like me going off of whatever. But like that, when we started looking into all of this, it made sense. So I would love for him to dig more into that, and I'm just very curious. And also how that spills over, like you were saying, like it all makes sense when you start realizing, oh, that's why I'm so obsessed with this. That's why I do Oracle. That's why I feel very good at manifestation and witching stuff now. This is why Jacob is such a strong writer. Like, it's all just like spilling over, little spills, that if we don't know where to look, we would miss it. We would not really understand. But like, if you do, it's like, damn, that makes sense, And I think we probably need another session. I would love for us to talk more in depth about past lives, even like our session and like what that meant, because I haven't shared that full story. I did record it afterwards just so I wouldn't forget any of the details, but I haven't, and I was going to post it and I just never did. And, but I would love to delve a little bit more into that, but it's going to be the whole thing if we start going there.
Definitely, we can do that sometime.
Have you, because I was talking about me and my friend Jacob having that connection where you just know, it's just like a different connection where you're like, I have known this person before, it's for sure. Have you had that where you discover a connection with somebody that you think that you've had a past life connection with before?
Yeah, totally. Well, I know my husband and I have a lot of karmic stuff, and there's actually some confirmation of that. Like, we got married unknowingly. I mean, we did not plan this. I was not into astrology when we got married. We got married on a full moon lunar eclipse in Capricorn. Very, very karmic. Lunar eclipses are extreme. Well, all eclipses are very, very karmic. So I know my husband and I have had some past lives together for sure. There's other like karmic things in our relationship chart if you look at our astrology. But I also witnessed a past life, the one in Scotland, where my mom was my younger sister. I've also seen a past life where my dad was my husband in that lifetime. And so there's like threads of healing and things like that. The past life where my dad was my husband, he killed me, he strangled me in that lifetime, like didn't allow me to speak. And in this lifetime, as his child, he has also like not allowed me to speak. So there's multiple different there's just so many threats, like it's just so deep. It's so deep.
Wow.
I believe my children, I've had past lives with them. I believe my children have some karmic stuff like connected with one another to heal some things. So yeah, I see it like everywhere. Certain friends that I have, that I have that same feeling that you have with Jacob. Like, I just know we've been together before. And I think that it's all an opportunity to kind of heal and break old cycles with these
Do
people.
you feel, it seems like you have a lot. Do you feel like that's common to have? Do you think people just are not really paying attention or aware of it? Like that people, we do kind of find the same souls life after life?
I do. I really
Yeah.
do believe that.
Interesting.
I do. I think all of the significant people in your family, in your close partnerships, your friendships, I do believe that they are old connections that are coming back up for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a my psychic friend, she thinks that just her what going off of feeling. She feels like we knew each other in the witchy life, and she thinks we were sisters in that one. And I was like, oh, like I never even really thought about that. She usually feels things pretty accurately, so I think that's possible for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have a whole episode about past life stuff, I think.
So much there. It's so deep.
It's so much information. There's couldn't possibly fit it into like even two. It's wild.
I know.
Okay, so moving on to messages from the other side. We kind of touched on that a little bit before. Do you think that loved ones most of the time recognize when their spirits, like their loved ones, are near, or do they miss the signs?
Hmm. Oh, I think there's a combination of things here. I think sometimes grief can be so heavy that we either miss the sign or we take something that maybe isn't a sign, but we desperately like want to hear from them. So I think grief. I actually was a grief counselor for about 5 years. I have a master's degree in counseling. That's what I used to do before all this like spiritual stuff happened. And I do think grief is like one of the most powerful, heavy emotions that can either block or create certain things. Um, but I really do believe too that I mean, I have some wild stories. My grandmother actually saved my brother's life from beyond. It's a
Okay,
really wild.
wait, tell me.
Yeah, you want to hear this one? So my grandmother passed in 2005. We all went down to her house as you do to clear things out, to move stuff and get rid of things and, you know, shift stuff around. My younger brother, he's 3 years younger than me. He noticed going through all of her things that she had the number 59 in her license plate, her zip code, her phone number on her license, like her ID card. Like we saw this number everywhere. And then we were going through a box of photos, and there was a photo of her holding him. And you know how when kids are little, you put like their age on the back of like a printed photo, like to remember how old? Well,
Mhm.
for some reason, my mom had written that my grandmother was 59 years old in this photo of her holding my younger brother when he was born. So she was
Yeah.
59 when he was born. So
Wow.
they have this like number connection.
Yeah.
Couple weeks later, my brother went back to college and he was coming home for the weekend. His friend was driving him in a car and he was in the passenger seat. He saw the number 59 on the clock, thought of my grandmother, and just kind of felt itchy and weird, like he needed to move his seat. He reclined his seat back a little bit in the car. A couple minutes later, a tire came off of a car going the opposite direction on a 4-lane highway, and the tire landed on the car exactly where my brother was. And as it was, he broke his nose, but he literally would have died had he not moved his seat back when he saw this.
Oh, I got chills.
Crazy, isn't it?
Holy cow.
Yeah. So ever
Wow.
since then, my entire family, we were all like, okay, that's her number. That is her. So we all know that she
Pay
communicates
attention.
to us with that number. She saved his life 100%.
Wow. Holy, yeah, because he would have been smashed.
He would have died. Absolutely.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
absolutely. So
Whew.
yes, I totally do believe that they
Thanks,
communicate.
Grandma. Thanks for looking after me.
Right?
Wow, that's insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I guess if so the signs are there, you just have to pay attention and know what to look for.
Yeah, but
So
I
like I
don't
guess
know,
it goes
like
like trusting your gut as well. You know, like he said, like you had a little itch and he's like, oh, I don't feel right. Yeah, yeah. Um, I know that you get your information from your feelings and your thoughts,
Mhm.
but how do you connect? Does it just come to you, or do you intentionally have to like drop in? And piggybacking off of that, like I always think about like shows where something like that's happening, where someone gets like mental abilities, where they're getting all this information, and it can be quite overwhelming. How do you not let that happen all the time? Like, is it something that you have to intentionally block out, or do you just let it kind of free flow?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good question. So I do believe that it just, like I said, it's always happened my whole life. Sometimes I will just say things and I'm not even intending to connect with spirit, and I just do it. So I do think it just happens. Sometimes I think it's just like me saying, having this intention within me in the way that I live, like use me for the highest good of someone else. Like if me saying something could help them, then just use my body. Go ahead. So it's almost like spirit has this permission slip. They just know to be able to use that to communicate certain things if I need to. But I also can control it and I can open up to it and I can shut it down. That has taken some skill and some work over time. A technique that I learned early on in kind of this journey that I've been on is to imagine it like a radio, like turning the volume kind of down, like the antenna, like I'm turning this volume down. I'm not open for this right now. I'm not interested in receiving, and then dialing it back open.
Mm.
I also have like a very specific prayer of protection that I use whenever do a reading for anyone, whenever I start to channel information. And just saying that prayer allows spirit to know that it's time, we can go, give me messages, that sort of thing. And then I do just sort of like, it's almost like they understand my energy when I'm done, and I feel them just like recede and back off. So they like
They
also
respect you.
respect. Yeah, they respect my own energy. I can feel them like leaving.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
yeah. So I do have to do that a lot, but I also take on, because I'm an empath, I can take on people's feelings of things. And
Mm.
so I have learned some of my own energetic like protection stuff from doing a reading for someone or how they might feel. I've learned how to like remove their energy from my energy system to protect that.
Yeah.
There's different things that I can do to do that.
I was thinking about a few things when you were talking about that, like the feelings. Um, I can be pretty empathetic as well, and sometimes I struggle with like even like being in a lot of people, like being around a lot of people. Sometimes it feels like a lot to me, or if it feels very draining afterwards, then I don't want to see people for days to kind of like recharge. I haven't quite learned how to block that out or to control that as well. So like I just kind of permit myself away whenever I feel like that. That's the only way that I've learned how to deal with it. And then I meant to touch on this earlier, but like you were talking about grief being such a hard thing that you can block people or grow people. I've had a lot of grief over the last 2 years, and like that innately, I think, has blocked a lot of things. I think that's something really important for people to understand is like learning your boundaries with certain things and learning what to do to protect yourself. Because like I think that that's not a common, because you feel like we have to. I mean, it's not something we can touch, like and I don't know, like, what's your best advice for someone that would be like, what do you think would be a good thing to do? Like you say, a little prayer, like protection, maybe something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, there's lots of different things that you can do. Part of it though, I just want to say this, like I fully believe that empaths are the blueprint for the future. We are the blueprint of what humanity is evolving into. I believe that eventually over time, more people will be more empathetic. They will feel more people's emotions. And so it is important not to fully shut that down. We don't want to like fully put a wall around ourselves, because part of it is feeling other people's emotions. Like part of our evolution as a humanity, and part of it as our own individuals is just going through that experience. So when I am out in public, when I'm with people, I imagine a bubble around myself. I ask that the negativity like doesn't come through the bubble, but that I could also receive, what I'm meant to receive, the feelings that other people have that I am meant to tap into, that's okay. But I ask that anything harmful towards me would be outside of this like bubble of protection. So I allow it to happen, honestly. I allow myself to take on other people's stuff. I allow myself to feel it as part of my role, so to speak, as like an empath in this lifetime. But when I go home is when I do my recharging things to remove their stuff from me. And the thing that I Actually learned about through a DMT experience that I had where I used DMT. Spirit came through and told me that the best way for me to transmute other people's energy is through my breath. And
Mm.
specifically through a specific pattern, which is like this short inhale and a very long exhale. So if you feel like you're an empath, after you've been around people, come home, all you need is a couple breaths like that. Just quick inhale and then imagine all of their energy leaving your body in that really long exhale. It calms your nervous system, it clears your energy, it removes their stuff from you, and you can move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'll like try that in the future.
Right.
Because I did in my whole star seed search, I learned that not all, like all star seeds are empaths, but not all empaths are star seeds.
Yeah, I agree.
So you have to like know the difference. And then, but that's also why probably I'm so empathic. And sometimes like, especially like, for example, in the beginning, like when things just seemed so bad and like people were being so hurt, it was just like so heavy all the time. I just cried and cried and cried and cried. And now I feel stronger. There are days that like they come and go, you know what I mean? But I think that is important to understand because like if you can't feel that, then yeah, I'll try the breath thing because I still haven't learned. I just isolate.
That's okay too. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being like, I need to get in my bed. I am exhausted. Like, that's okay. That's okay.
Because sometimes I'm like, I can't be around people. I can't do anything today, and it comes day by day too.
Yeah, you just got to take time to recharge. You have to listen to your body and yourself and your soul, and that's fine. I think it's
Yeah, but I would love to. I will also try the bubble method
how
because
it goes.
sometimes I really do want to go to something, but I just really don't feel up for it. And I would feel better if I felt more like I wasn't going to absorb everyone's shite, you know?
Yeah, try that too. See how it feels.
So, okay, so this is just sort of closing up a little bit. Big picture and personal insight would be, what would you say to the skeptics who believe that psychic and spiritual work isn't real?
Yeah. I am not here to convince anyone of anything. I fully believe that. If someone is skeptical of the work that I do, then that's okay. That's their path. My job, I believe in this lifetime, is to be here for the people who do believe in it, to support them, to help their evolution, their growth. I don't waste any time on anyone who doesn't believe in what I do.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. They give my whole body feelings. Because I think sometimes it can get hard if it's like you just want to fight, but like you're like, no, like why? It's just a waste of energy. That takes a lot of wisdom and it takes a lot of knowing thyself.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I love that answer. Brilliant.
I believe that's their path. That's where they are. That's their evolution. And that's okay. It has nothing to do with me.
Yeah, true. And it's nothing that you can, like you said, like it's kind of a waste. You can talk to someone till you're blue in the face. And if it's not something that they're going to believe, they're not going to believe it. So you might as well help the people that do. And the people that you do help get a lot of help out of it. So yeah, you're putting your energy where it's worthy.
Exactly.
How has working so closely with spirit or the spirit world shaped your own view of the afterlife?
I truly don't have any fear of dying from the work that I do. I know with all certainty that the place that we are going is so beautiful, so peaceful, so incredible. I have no doubt. Like, I'm not afraid to die in any way, shape, or form. Maybe a little part of me, the human side of me is like, I don't want to feel pain, like depending on how I go, but I have zero fear of the afterlife. I just know and trust and believe in all of it. Um, I don't know fully all of it. Like, some of it is a guess. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know it all or that I know what it's like on the other side, but I do just know and trust that it is safe and it is okay and it's beautiful, and that we will be able to see all of our loved ones again. We will be with them. We will even be with the people who are still here on earth. Like, I just trust in all of that so deeply.
Yeah, I love that.
Mhm.
Oh, it's fine. My camera shut off, but my battery said it's exhausted. Okay,
good.
um,
Pouring it out.
that is, I think that's pretty much it. do you want to close out by pulling some cards?
Yeah, let's do it.
Pull this over here.
I'll pull a couple from my deck. I'm just going to move them around here. Okay. So we actually got 2 cards from my shadow work section when I was explaining my deck. So the South section, so really understanding your humanity. The first card that came through is my Thorn card. This card is about recognizing that your experience, your hardships are valid. So this card can come up when you feel like, well, so and so has it worse. This person in this part of the world is suffering. So who am I to complain about my first world problems, right? And this card comes through to say, yes, that is true. There's always going to be someone who has it harder, who has it worse, who has a bigger challenge, but that doesn't take away from your soul lessons and what you are here to experience in this lifetime. So this card validates for you. It is okay to say that this is hard for me. It is okay to say that this is a struggle. It is okay to be upset by something, because if you don't acknowledge it, if you don't acknowledge how difficult or challenging or hard something is, you are shoving it down. You are potentially creating disease within your body because you're holding back like emotions and validation for yourself. So this card asks you to not compare your struggles or your challenges to other people, and to really like sit with how you feel. You're going to be able to move through the challenge, the struggle, much easier if you validate it for yourself, if you honor it, if you witness it, and then allow yourself to then move on and to be perhaps grateful for, this lovely life that you have or whatever it is. But you cannot bypass honoring the challenge and the struggle. We all have it. We all face things. So honor your own challenge, these thorns that maybe are kind of sticking in your side. And the second card that came up is my magic mirror card, which is this idea that other people are all a mirror for us, for our own experiences. And so the shadow work element here is the people in your life who trigger you, who challenge you the most. You contain a piece of that same thing. So I like to use my stepdad for an example in this one. He like challenges me, he pokes me. He just like, we immediately have to do everything. We have to rush, we have to push forward, we have to do. And I do that, maybe not in the same way, maybe not the same like ferocity that he does, but like I will push some of my family to be like, come on, we need to do this, do this, do this. And so there's like an element of needing to learn patience from my stepdad, right? But on the flip side, this card also challenges you to notice the people in your life that you really respect, that you really admire, who are doing something that you kind of wish you could do, and know that they are also a mirror for the abundance, for the expansion that you could also claim in your life. So it's about kind of challenging you to find the core, the seed of what connects you to someone who triggers or pushes you, and to work on healing that, to find some acceptance for it, some love for that, but also to expand yourself. So these 2 cards are definitely connected, because I think a lot of times, like, our relationships are some of the most challenging things that we experience in this lifetime. And it's because of these karmic connections that we have from past lives and these things that we are tasked to face and to handle. And they are valid, they are real. It's about not pushing it down, about facing it and working to see these people that are coming into your life, perhaps from a past life, that are here to help you break some cycles and some patterns. So these 2 are definitely very, very connected cards. How does that resonate for you?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. You don't have to share. It's okay. But yes,
No,
this is
it's
like the
okay.
collective message.
Yeah, and I think that that's the perfect thing for me right now for a couple of different reasons, but one major one that I've been really struggling with. So I think I needed to hear that. I was just actually talking to my best friend about that specific situation yesterday, and things you were talking about, like how I struggled to I'm a Capricorn, so I usually just like push forward and keep going, you know, no matter what. It's the only direction is forward. And I don't think that served me. It has in the material world, you know, but it hasn't in my spiritual world or like my emotional self. So, but I struggle with that of like where it's, I have been questioning that a lot, like, because I do compare. I've been struggling with like my own emotional situation and like what I need for myself, like as a human being and like my own self progression. And sometimes that feels selfish. And then I have guilt that it's selfish. And then me comparing to somebody that has obviously worse, but it makes me feel like my stuff is not as important. Sir. Yeah. Yeah, that's super, super. So yeah, that was spot on.
Yeah, these are two of my more challenging messages for sure out of my deck. And it's funny because I'm sure everyone has seen that meme that's like, you know, oracle cards are like all soft and cuddly, and tarot is like, give it to you straight. But I wrote my cards to give it to you straight too. You know, there's so many comforting messages in my deck too, but there are certain truths that we just have to face in this lifetime and in this experience, and it's some deep shadow work. It's not easy, you know.
Yeah, I'm in that space right now, pretty heavy. I think that's why I've been so like serious about like my health and wellness and like working out and like staying true to myself and that, like focusing on what I need. It's just like literally like must be selfish right now. Like, what do I need to be better? Because I'm not serving anyone if I'm not serving myself. I can't, I'm not a machine as much as I feel like it sometimes, you know? And like, you know, I don't know, that's a hard thing for me to like accept. So yeah, I'm definitely in that space right now where like I was telling I disassociate a lot because of that, but I think it's stuff like you said, like some things I just need to face, but I don't really know. Sometimes I don't know. Like I'm pretty decisive when it comes to like important things in my life. I'm not decisive when it comes to things like food or something, you know. But like important things, I'm pretty decisive. This is the first time I felt very indecisive about something, and I don't really know. So I know I'm trying not to make like big decisions because of that. But all of that, like what you were talking about, is weighing in, and it's heavy for sure.
Yeah. Well, you got that weight card, so I think you'll know exactly when you're supposed to move forward or how you're supposed to move forward. But that weight card is like,
Agreed.
patient. Wait till you know.
And like anytime now.
Yeah, I know.
Every day.
Our timing is always different from spirit's timing. Always.
I know, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else? I think that was great. That's about 2 hours. That'll be like 2 episodes.
Amazing. Yeah, no, it was, I mean, we
Amazing.
covered so much ground, and I know we could probably keep talking forever and ever, but
Yeah.
and it was beautiful. Yeah, so we covered a lot.
Thank you so much for being on and sharing your expertise with us and being vulnerable with us and sharing also insight of how to handle certain things that I think a lot of us need, especially today. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.
Yeah. Same. Okay, and we'll have to do this again at some point, maybe in the future. If you ever are coming down to be with Vaughn or doing another workshop, maybe we'll try to plan an in-person something. I would love to have you on again.
Yeah, let's definitely do that. I would love to. Anytime.
Oh, I'm going to put, I always share where people can find you. I'm going to put it somewhere on the screen. This is where you can find Dana. If you want past life regression, if you want card pulling, if you want to do her thing coming up the year ahead. And also, where can people buy your deck? Is it also on a website?
Yeah, it's actually on Etsy, but you can find it on my website, which is danawhitby.com. Just click on the Inner Compass Oracle and you'll see it right there.
Amazing. Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess that's it.
Thank you. This was so fun.
All right. Bye.
Bye.